and welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records and talk about why I love them. Last month's White Album episode of Vinyl Friday left us with airplane sound effects at the end of Back in the USSR. And today, we're going to pick up where we left off, or landed, as it were. Before we jump in though, as you may know from last time, I'm making a set of postcards, one postcard for each of the songs on the White Album. This is the second one, and if you'd like to purchase one for me to send to you, I'll explain it at the end of the video. But, you know, let's not waste too much time at the beginning of the video when we could be talking about the song. Our sojourn through this album has only just begun, and already we're falling headfirst into one of the prettiest songs on the album, and indeed one of John Lennon's favorites. The song we're listening to today is Dear Prudence, and it sounds like this. But today's story is not just about the Fab Four. Indeed, there are two side characters in this tale of Dear Prudence. Let us learn together. If you'll recall, the Beatles began 1968 with a spiritual retreat to an ashram? I think I'm probably butchering that word. In Rishikesh, India, where they were to learn transcendental meditation from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. This song is a product of the retreat, and it is at this retreat that we meet our first character, Prudence Farrow. Prudence was the sister of actress Mia Farrow.
What have you done to him, you maniac?
And they traveled to the retreat together. Mia was treating the retreat as a sort of therapy because she was going through a divorce with Frank Sinatra, a man who was 30 years her senior.
I did it my way.
She was only 21. Prudence, on the other hand, her younger sister, was going to India because she was genuinely really fired up about learning about transcendental meditation. Upon arrival, though, she became quickly obsessed to the point of locking herself in a room and not coming out at all. John and George, that is Lennon and Harrison, were tasked with trying to coax her out of her room, and our Storytime correspondent is going to take it away from there. Good day, Vinyl Friday family. We'll be taking today's reading, as usual, from the good book. We hear first from Ringo, who says, and I quote, Prudence meditated and hibernated. We saw her twice in the 2 weeks I was there. Everyone would be banging on the door. Are you still alive? John continues, not completely charitably. They selected me and George to try to bring her out because she would trust us. She went completely mental. Again, these are not the sorts of phrases that we now use to talk about mental health.
All the people around were very worried about the girl because she was going insane.
We got her out of the house. She'd been locked in for 3 weeks and wouldn't come out, trying to reach God quicker than everybody else.
So we sang to her.
So Prudence Farrow, she provides the lyrical inspiration for this song. It is also in Rishikesh where we meet our second side character, one Donovan Leitch.
BBBC's mad about, she mad about me, yeah, the mellow yellow.
But before he sounded like that, he was but a humble folk muso. He's from Scotland, and he came up as a musician in the folk clubs around the area where he lived. In 1964, he moved to Manchester, where he studied guitar, became a busker, and basically just soaked in the traditions of British folk music. The Beatles, by contrast, had basically no experience as musicians with this same musical tradition. So when they met in Rishikesh, acoustic guitars in hand, Mr. Leitch had something to offer them. This wasn't actually the first time they'd met. Donovan Leitch was also the person who supplied the line,
Sky of blue and sea of green,
from the song Yellow Submarine. In the absence of a studio and all the fancy tricks therein, Donovan taught the Beatles a new and exciting way to use their guitars, their acoustic guitars. Donovan taught them Travis picking. John took it and ran with it, and from these new techniques that Donovan Leitch had taught him, and his experience with Prudence Farrow, Dear Prudence was born. This seems like a good time to begin talking about the music of the song, but first, hold up, back up, what is this Travis picking thing of which we speak? That's a great question. Let's ask the guitar correspondent. Hello friends and family. The Travis picking style is named for guitarist Merle Travis.
This 9-pound hammer, just a little too heavy for my size.
And while it takes many forms, it is characterized by the thumb playing a bass line on the bottom strings. On this song, that would sound like this. Which creates a bass line to go with the top part. But this is not the last we'll hear of Travis picking in this series, because Donovan's teachings went a long way in crafting and shaping the sound of the White Album. We'll see this picking style come back in tracks like Happiness is a Warm Gun, and Julia, and even Blackbird to an extent. And while I have the microphone and your attention, I would like to break down the beauty of this song, and in particular, the guitar part. We open with this stellar introduction, and despite what I said about Travis picking being characterized by the use of the thumb, I learned this song from tabs when I was in my teens. Consequently, I have never actually learned Travis picking correctly, so I tend to use my index finger more. You'll forgive me, I'm certain. So it opens with these lovely chords. And it's at this point that we come to our distinctive ringing, chromatic, descending bass theme in the song. The chromatic bass line is being played here. But it keeps up that Travis picking. It's just that as John Lennon plays it, he is allowing the top two strings to sustain so that it sounds like this. But really what's happening is... actually not the picking hand that's the tricky thing in this song. It's very difficult to articulate this chromatic descending motif thing without contorting your hand. I thought I must have been doing it wrong or making it unnecessarily difficult for myself, but I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, maybe 3 or 4, and saw it being played 3 or 4 different times, so I'm choosing to use my thumb to play that bottom note there. The other ways you could play it are this way, or this way, which I hate. So there we have it. That's the guitar part for Dear Prudence. Hello again. I would now like to point out a few elements in the vocal delivery of the song that I really love. The first thing is the Buddy Holly influence. That might seem kind of improbable at this point in their careers where they've diverged so wildly from their humble rock and roll upbringing, but even at this stage, John Lennon is still calling back to his beloved rock and roll roots. I'll show you what I mean. Have a listen to this.
Greet the brand new day.
When I listen to that, I hear clearly the influence of Every Day by Buddy Holly.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's that sort of hiccuping stutter that John Lennon actually kind of does throughout his career. But it's especially pronounced on this track. The other thing I'd like to point out is these long static backing vocals at this point in the song. That vocal line runs for so long. Dear Prudence is one of the songs that I do with my Beatles tribute band, the Elementary Penguins. And we had to figure out how the hell we were going to practice this because we kept ending up out of breath. We ended up having to stagger the backing vocals so that people could take a minute and catch their breath in between. So well done, Beatles. I don't think they did that. It sounds totally sustained. The next thing is that those backing vocals through that entire section, the really long static lines that I mentioned, are not discordant, but eerie, a little bit eerie. And then at the very end of the verse, they come together and they resolve beautifully in this major chord.
Won't you open up your eyes?
It's so pretty. It sounds like the sunny sky. It sounds like Prudence opening up her eyes. Hi. Did you want to be in this week's episode? Okay. Welcome to the internet. The last little vocal thing I would like to point out is this very hypnotic, repeating round, round, round line right here.
Look around,
Those round, 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 rounds are sung by the Beatles' all-around gopher and bestie, Mal Evans, also Apple protege Jackie Lomax, and Paul's cousin John. It's time to move on to what's probably my second favorite thing about this song after the guitar part, and that is the rhythm section. From the very beginning of the song, the bass and the drums are in perfect synchrony. But you don't need to take my word from it. Let's get the correspondents in here to talk about it. So this is the bass line for Dear Prudence. It picks up on the chromatic descending line of the guitar, but with these beautiful slides up and then down, like so. And it absolutely locks in with the drum part. So when the bass part begins with this two-note opening, those are the two kick drum hits. The third note coincides with the snare smack, so kick, kick, snare. And they just groove harmoniously, like this. I'd just like to point out, sadly, this isn't Ringo on the drums. This is possibly the only track on which Ringo doesn't play. I'll get editor Nancy to fact check me on that. Is that correct? The last thing I'd like to look at is the trajectory of the song. It opens gently from the tail end of Back in the USSR, as we established earlier. Those chords in the beginning are so lovely. I love the introduction of the song. Anyway, the lightness of that introduction doesn't necessarily indicate the direction that the song is going to go in. The vocals, as they come in, are also pretty gentle.
won't you come out to play?
However, we start to lose some of that gentleness at the entrance of the drum and the bass. That makes the song a lot heavier, almost aggressive, maybe even a little bit menacing.
Dear Prudence.
Actually, even that, just that repeating, ringing two-note, ding dong, ding dong. Almost like they're ringing the doorbell to her room. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's kind of fun. And the song continues to grow increasingly heavy until it builds to this frantic, frenzied ending. It sounds less like an enticing invitation to come out and enjoy the sunshine, and more like a panic attack. There's a feverish piano. There's this repeating guitar riff. The drum is all wild fills, like Paul is channeling his inner animal. Although animal wasn't really a thing yet. I think Sesame Street didn't even start until 1969. I'm not sure when the Muppets began as a thing, but you know, it's the spirit of animal that's happening in this drum part. You know, that's not the only mention of the Muppets that we're going to have in this episode. I am pleased to inform you. And finally, when we come to that last chromatic descent, it's twice as long. And as the bass and the guitar are descending, the rhythm guitar, the finger-picked guitar, the lead guitar has an ascending line, and it just sounds like chaos. They're, forgotten what that's called now. I spoke about it in the For No One episode. Help me out, editor Nancy. What's it called? Our vocals are crazed. It basically, the whole way through, it's this high voltage ending. Which means that when we come to the end of the song, or the bookend of the song, I should say, the contrast is massive. Suddenly we're quiet again. I especially love that little slide there right before it fades out. So good. We fade in, we fade out. So before I leave you, one last question remains to be answered. What became of Prudence Farrow? Well, she actually went on to become an instructor in transcendental meditation. She taught for decades after this retreat. She earned a doctorate at UC Berkeley in Asian Studies. And aside from that, she worked in film and theater. She was a producer. She was an art director. She was an assistant director on, wait for it, The Muppets Take Manhattan.
Taxi!
She even taught primary school and worked as a magazine writer at various points. So despite what the Beatles, what John was saying, what everyone was saying about how she had completely lost the plot, I think she did all right for herself. And that's it for me. Before I forget though, this week's postcards. Here's the crop of this month's postcards, Dear Prudence themed. Thank you so much to everyone who bought postcards last time. If you would like to purchase some of these postcards for me to send to you, I will leave a link in the description for that. If you would not necessarily like to buy a postcard, but would like to support any of the weird things I do, I'll also leave a link to my general Buy Me a Coffee page, where you are most welcome to make a donation, if you wish, no pressure, friends. If you're curious about what any of my original music sounds like, I'll leave a link in the description to that as well. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend. Transcendental meditation from, what are the flowers doing over here? He's from Scottish. Good start. Blue, 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 blue. You're here to get white fur all over this lovely black outfit that my sister has just given me. I can see it in your eyes. I surrender.